The Florida Gators have arguably the best running back duo in the country. And we're going to talk about that here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Friday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And today we're talking about the Florida Gators running backs because I truly think that when you look at that room, you see, I don't like saying the best running back duo in the country. I will say you have one of the best running back duos in the country, and you absolutely can make the case for them being the best running back duo in the country. I know that Florida Gators fans tend to fall on the opposite side of me on this, but I think Montrell Johnson right now, and by right now, I mean based on what we saw in 2022, I think Montrell Johnson is the best running back in this room. Okay? Trevor Etienne's a very close second. They're both great running backs. I think Montrell Johnson is the more well-rounded back. Just overall, I think he's a more well-rounded guy. So for me, it's Montrell Johnson. But again, Trevor Etienne's a very close second, and I know that a lot of Gators fans feel Trevor Etienne is the better running back there, and that's fine. I think Trevor Etienne has a higher ceiling, but I think right now Montrell Johnson is the most well-rounded back, or the more well-rounded back there. And I'm not a big numbers guy, but I will say that when you're looking at running back production, that's probably the best position to look at for numbers, where you see Montrell Johnson, 156 yards, 841 carries, 5.5 yards per carry, 10 touchdowns. Great. Almost 500 yards after contact. He's got 489 yards after contact, forced 36 missed tackles, and 26 carries of 10 or more yards. Okay? On top of that, he had 52.4% of his yards on runs that went longer than 15 yards and 43 first downs on the ground. Okay? I also think that I know that Montrell is the better pass protecting back of the group, which for me, I'm like, okay, then you're a better passing down back of the group. Then you look at Trevor Etienne, and he's thought of as like the lightning to Montrell Johnson's thunder. They both have both in them, okay? Like they're both capable of creating these long, explosive runs. They're both capable of shedding some contact. Montrell Johnson is better at shedding heavy contact than Trevor Etienne, but arm tackles ain't really bringing down Trevor Etienne, so nice try there. But Trevor Etienne, 118 carries, 719 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns, 457 yards after contact, 35 missed tackles forced, a long of 85, 21 carries that went for 10 or more yards, and 47.1% of his yards came on breakaway runs, which are runs of 15 yards or longer, and he picked up 28 first downs with his legs. So when I look at them, I see an elite running back duo that I don't think you can really question. Like I understand that there are people who want to bring up, they might not, or they might be products of their offensive line, which was amazing last year, but that's not the case at all to me. I think that they're just a genuinely elite duo. They're both very freaking good running backs. And I think that's the part where I think Florida Gators fans are going to be spoiled this year, because I think that Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne are just going to whoop you know what. Truly, like they are fantastic in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to watching them both whoop, if you know what I mean, because I think that they're arguably best running back duo in the country this year. And I think that this year they will further that argument to do so. And if Montrell Johnson doesn't declare for the NFL draft and he stays in Gainesville for 2024, special. Okay. That's all I'm saying. That would be a special combination to have there. But behind them, there's a great veteran presence in Cameron Carroll, and there's a true freshman in Treyaun Webb. We'll talk about them in a second. Before we do that, though, today's bonus episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure that every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time that you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to my garage, look for the green check to know that the part will fit, or you get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. Get the right parts, the right fit, and most importantly, the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Gator Nation, let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Looking behind Florida Gators running back, okay, looking behind Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne, we're looking at Cameron Carroll, who is coming over from Tulane. He's a running back transfer. Last year, didn't play much, got banged up, and then he was just out of the team, really, for the season. And then he transferred to the Florida Gators. Cam Carroll is thought of as a pass-catching specialist, kind of back, like a James White type, where it's like, yeah, he can run the ball, but his big value is being a receiver out of the backfield. Cameron Carroll can get it done rushing. In his career, he's got 5.2 yards per carry, 19 rushing touchdowns, 1,049 yards after contact, 1,637 total yards. So he's got 5.2 yards per carry. He's got 3.34 yards after contact per carry for 74 missed tackles, has 44 carries that went 10 or more yards, has 41.3% of his yards came on carries of 15 yards or longer, 89 first downs on the ground. And again, that's not the most important part of his game. Most important part of his game is working as a pass catching back, which by the way, he doesn't have an insane amount of volume because Tulane did run the ball a lot, especially in 2021, which was Cam Carroll's probably biggest role year, and 2020 was also a solid year for him, just role wise. But I think that Cameron Carroll brings a few things to the Florida Gators passing attack that you don't have with Montrell Johnson or Trevor Etienne. First of all, Cameron Carroll, and I know this is not the important part for most people that are Gators fans or most football fans in general, but for me, it is huge. Pass protecting as a running back, not easy to do. Cameron Carroll does a solid job of it. Montrell Johnson is better at it than Trevor Etienne, but they're both bad at it. So Cameron Carroll being great at that, one, is going to help just the Florida Gators running backs get better because he's going to be in that room with them, working with them. And it was one of the reasons that Naquan Wright got significant playing time at the start of last year because of his pass protecting ability. And so Cameron Carroll is going to probably play a bit because of that ability, pass protecting and pass catching. And Florida, based on what we've seen through fall camp so far, has every intention of getting more involved with running backs in the passing game. Cameron Carroll is going to be a big part of that. Like, you don't bring in Cameron Carroll to not throw the football to him. Like, he's going to be a part of that, and we know he's going to be a part of that. Then you look at who's behind him, and it's Treyaun Webb. Okay, Treyaun Webb's a four-star running back out of Jacksonville. He went to Trinity Christian Academy, and he is just thought of as a very well-rounded back. We talked about this way back when John Garcia was still here. We would talk about Treyaun Webb as a guy who he can do it all. He can run between the tackles. He can run out wide. And as a pass catching back, he can operate out of the backfield, not just like, hey, wait for the swing and just sit here and wait. No, he can run routes out of the backfield and be a weapon. Everything that Florida has done over the past year or two with and basically everything Billy Napier has done in the past year or two as far as looking to add running backs, he's looked for running backs that can contribute in the passing attack. And I would fully expect him to continue to do that for the remainder of his career because you have to be able to use those running backs, especially when you have someone like Graham Mertz as your quarterback. He's going to look for those running backs. There's this thing where last year Anthony Richardson didn't throw to running backs much. And I think a lot of that was just Anthony Richardson's tendencies. He likes to throw to wide receivers. I think that's just part of his tendency where it's like he just doesn't throw to tight ends too much. He doesn't throw to running backs too much. Graham Mertz will throw to tight ends and will throw to running backs. So I think you're going to see running backs just be involved more in the passing attack. I'm not sure Treyaun Webb is going to play a huge role this year, but against Charlotte, against McNeese, and later in the year, or if there's an injury, knock on wood, I fully expect him to be a contributor at some point in some games. So for Florida, I think you've got two of the best running backs in the country. You've got a viable complementary third back in Cameron Carroll. And then you've got a true freshman with potential and a pretty solid ceiling in Treyaun Webb. So the running back room throughout is looking strong as hell in Gainesville right now. And I cannot wait to see them actually on the field in under 2 weeks now. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back Monday to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And as always, I will see you all Monday.